Oh, you are just like embarrassing me because like others, they don't have all those kind of problems. Why do you have all those kind of problems?
We always think everything is our fault, but many things are due to uncontrollable factors.
In 2008, there were 100,000 Chinese nationals studying in the US. By 2018, that number had grown to 350,000, a more than threefold increase in just 10 years. With that growth has come a unique set of mental health issues, sometimes with tragic consequences. On October 2nd this year, an NYU freshman from China ended his life by jumping into the subway. He was 18 years old. At the end of 2017, a 21-year-old senior from China took her own life in her apartment at Cornell University. For recent graduate Hardy Duan, an immediate issue was the severing of his close connection with his parents, whom are now 7,000 miles and 12 time zones away from him.
I spent my first 18 years living with my parents. During that stage, my parents took care of my life and studies, and I got used to it. But after coming to the US with the distance, time difference, and different US and Chinese education systems, my parents didn't know how to care for me all of a sudden. So when I faced problems in life such as friendship and academic pressure, my parents didn't know how to express their concern. They could only ask me, "Have you turned in your homework? When are you having an exam? Are you eating okay? How much money are you spending?" etc. I can understand them that they want to take care of me, but their method didn't really touch what I wanted to be cared.
NYU senior Chelsea Liu went to high school in the US. Rather than cultural shock, generation gap has become an obstacle when she tried to talk about depression with her parents.
It's like really hard for some of the traditional Chinese families to understand what you are like actually going through. And if you try to talk to them, you have to like explain everything what has been happening and explain to them like, oh, what mental health issue is, and maybe you would like even get blamed by your family. So it's not that easy to talk to your family about this.
Sumi Okazaki is a professor of applied psychology at NYU, whose research specializes in Asian adolescents and Asian families.
I think that a lot of students I think have a hard time telling parents that they're having a hard time, mostly because the parents, I think they sense that the parents don't really want to hear that. They want to please their parents. They want to be, show that the parents that they're grateful, for them being here. But it's very hard to then admit, like, oh, I'm having a little bit of a hard time. And so I think a lot of times the Chinese or other international students, but I think especially Chinese students, feel like there's not really a space for that conversation.
Sometimes being in a close-knit Chinese community can make Hardy feel unsupported.
Since there are a certain number of Chinese people at this school, gossip passes by really fast. If I tell someone something, I will be prepared that everyone will know the next day. So I found a therapist who can keep my secrets and is completely separate from my studies and life, as I can tell her everything.
While struggling with academic pressures and life problems, students from China rarely find counselors on campus helpful.
She tried to like make safety plans with me. Like, I think that thing is not really helpful because it's like a piece of paper and then you just like write down like the phone numbers you could call when you feel depressed or anxious, and what you could do to avoid like suicide prevention. So I don't think that's really helpful, because if people are like really anxious at that point, at that moment, they wouldn't be like pulling out the paper and then just like look it through.
My therapist is American. She doesn't know the dynamics between Chinese parents and children and Chinese parents' expectations. Although there are many Chinese in New York, Chinese-speaking doctors are so few. My therapist could only try her best to understand Asian parents and Asian culture, or understand from some stereotypes, as it is not aligned with American culture. I often had to spend a long time explaining why such things happen.
Okazaki says when they turn for help, they often run into a lack of resources.
Many of the counselors and mental health professionals are still sort of middle class, white, individuals, often women. And because of the increasing diversity in the United States, with more and more population either being international or ethnic minorities, I often hear that in the community, the mental health professionals also have a hard time figuring out where to refer clients because a Chinese speaking mental health professional might not have openings at the time because that person's practice is full.
In 2014, 3 Asian Boston-based physicians recognized this strong need and founded the Center of Cross-Cultural Student Emotional Wellness, housed within Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, which ranks top 2 in psychiatry across U.S. hospitals.
As one of the founders, Dr. Albert Young says the cultural stigma of seeking mental health support is a first obstacle.
Psychiatry, mental health, psychology originated from European American culture. So this is the kind of services that this discipline or many disciplines in mental health are not familiar to Asians or Chinese. A lot of times they run away from mental health providers, mental health services because of the stigma. I'm not having a mental illness, why do I need to talk to a mental health provider?
Young feels that today's Chinese young adults have specific challenges based in the unique history and society they grew up in.
Why are the Chinese parents always talking about success in terms of money, making money? Why are other people in other cultures, they are not doing that? In the past, say, 40-something years, GNP of China has grown tremendously, exponentially. And that means there is a lot of focus on creating wealth. Or there was a tremendous lack of wealth to start with. So this has affected a lot of the value system.
Now we're seniors, we're trying to look for a job that is high paid, and so I think our parents, they never expect us to have all those mental health problems. They think it's, if you have that, you're just a loser to them, because they're just expecting so much things from you, and maybe they care about your grade more. And they don't, I think most of them, they're ignoring how your mental state has been.
China's one-child policy also plays a role in this issue.
So since the coming of the one-child policy, there is a phenomenon of overinvestment. There is a lot of responsibility as well. And say if all the resources, all the attention are on you, what does it mean for you? Asian culture, there is a strong hierarchical expectation that you need to respect, obey, and listen to the parents. Confucianism expect people to do well academically. So that means a lot of pressure to study, to go abroad, to excel in their schools. And what if there's only a certain percentage of people who can excel? There are people who are not the top 25%. So how do they feel? Do they feel that I'm a failure? Are you creating people that unnecessary guilt, unnecessary responsibility and expectation?
While U.S. universities often stress diversity and inclusion, it is also important to take care of the diverse student body who have made immense efforts to survive on a foreign land.
My main goal is to help people from
Besides professionals, NYU senior Aria Xiao, who is the only applied psychology major from China in her class, dreams to go on a cross-cultural counseling career to improve the current situation.
Last semester, my friend from CSSA, Chinese Students and Scholars Association in NYU, reached out to me and she suggested we should do a workshop for Chinese international students on what is psychology and what are the common emotional problems that you encounter. It was important to me to have the students realize it's very important to recognize their own emotions and talk about them.
I do think that the future is bright, There's a collaborative program between NYU Shanghai and NYU on this campus where the social work master's degree is being offered. And that's a excellent model where we are specifically training people who can cross cultures literally.